Welcome back to the War Corgi News Network. This is Michael. I'm joined here by
Chris Peterson.
We have lots of news as the campaign has been rolling along, and we are now in turn 3. But lots of things happened in turn 2 that we'd like to discuss today.
Absolutely. So to jump right off, I'd like to talk about our Armada games being played. This time around, the Rebels were actually able to gain advantage. Very exciting with how the first round of the campaign went. We've taken 2 victories out of the 3 Armada games played, all thanks to Jason multiple toes, and that will give us the ability to deny 1 attack with our Armada fleets.
We knew it was going to be trouble because the only player who knew how to play Armada going into this round was Jason multiple toes.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it showed as Jason won both his battles, as you said. He blunted our attack, which was led by Captain Mark, and then he defeated me on your attack, which gives you that advantage. Now, you and I also played a game. It was an attack by you against our fleet.
Yeah,
it was a very close game. It was a very close game.
It was a great game.
I think I had an Imperial Star Destroyer on 1 hull point left, running away.
Getting real tired of losing great games.
It's better than losing really terrible
That
games.
is true. That would be a lot worse. So.
Last thing to say about Armada is there's a lot of new interest in the game here in the St. Louis area. We've been teaching the game to new people. Fleets are being built up on both sides. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
Yeah, a lot of training sessions. A lot of players locally have been purchasing collections and sharing them. So it's really taken off.
I have a fleet coming in the mail soon. All right, as far as ground combat was concerned in turn 2, most of it was a stalemate, but the Rebels and Imperials did manage to swap some planets. The Imperial attack on Seleucami, I didn't think how to pronounce it.
Is that okay?
Seleucami was successful, and if you haven't checked out the War Corgi YouTube channel under the battle reports for Star Wars Legion, you can see my game against Chris there. Spoiler, I do win that game, but it was a fantastic game.
Another great game, definitely. Go check it out.
The Rebels had made a 2-pronged attack into Kashyyyk.
Yep. And so we sent 2 of our commanders over. We did win that first game, so there won't be a second battle played for a planet that's already been taken. But Kashyyyk has gone to the Rebels now, which will unlock the Wookiee units for the Rebel army.
So you will be able to see how that kind of plays out once we go to the map segment of this video, but it was a swap essentially with both sides getting much closer to the home planets of each other. As far as the Patron missions were concerned for round 2, you want to start with your Rebel victory?
Yeah, definitely. Our patrons were able to incite the locals this time around, and so this caused the Imperial players to have to pick one of their planets and kind of leave the planet as the people have risen up and rebelled against the Imperials without the direction of the Rebel Alliance and taken the planet back. So the Imperials decided to give up Dantooine.
It was a great victory by Lamb Chop over our Outer Rim correspondent, Ron Armstrong. Ron, come on, buddy. You can do this.
Actually, I think you can check that game out.
You can, absolutely.
Ron's channel.
And that channel is the Cocky Rooster. And we always put a link to the Cocky Rooster underneath here. So he live streamed that, and we all sit around and watch it and root him on. And you can watch it as well because he posted up to his YouTube channel afterwards. Good call.
Yeah.
So on the Imperial side, we had 2 victories this time.
Yes.
Actually outshining the Rebels when it came to our patrons.
I know, despite our numerous Patreons.
The first victory was the rescue of Emperor Palpatine himself. He was captured during turn 1 and sprung free in turn 2 of the campaign, which means he will be free to use in turn 3. And then we had a new patron come in, and he was successful in his game, and he has now resupplied the Imperial armies across the galaxy. And that is going to give us a 10-point advantage when determining bids on our games.
Right, which unless you're really building to get that bid will all but guarantee the bid goes to the Imperials for the rest of this round of the campaign.
So it's been quite an effective round 2 for us on the patron side. It was a wash when it came to the ground combat. Not exactly a wash because we have changed positions, but then Rebel victory in the skies above the planets in the galaxy. So very exciting round 2, and it set the conditions for a great round 3. But before we go to the map, let's go ahead to the rules corner, talk about some rules.
All right.
Welcome back to the Rules Corner, where today we're going to talk about the command phase, one of the more important phases for the campaign, and it really, distinguishes it and makes it a campaign. Otherwise, you're just playing a series of regular Star Wars Legion games.
Which wouldn't be bad, but it's not as great as a campaign.
They're both great. We've been having a lot of fun, and this, since it is a team-based campaign, what it's allowed us to do is really talk amongst ourselves and develop strategies on both sides.
Yeah.
And it's been much more interesting than I even thought it was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
So what we'd like to talk about is kind of how you run through the phases of the command phase. And the first thing you're going to do is determine the initiative.
Right, so the team that's going to have the least amount of planets is just automatically going to obtain initiative. And initiative's great because it allows you to get your effects off first and declare your attacks first. Which is actually going to be really important.
Now, in the case both sides have the same amount of planets, you will roll to determine who has initiative, and that's just, the standard red dice roll, a 50-50 chance. So after that, both sides are going to tally their resources with what the board state is at that point. That means you're going to look and see which planets your team occupies, and you're going to get either strategic resource points for a planet that you occupy, or you're going to get 3 times a unit. For that particular planet. So that's really important that you do that before you make any moves on the campaign board.
And especially in terms of when you own regions and you're able to choose whether you want an extra armada attack or an extra attack cruiser. And so during this phase, when resources are tallied, we're also choosing what we're obtaining from those regions at this point as well.
Yeah, and it's important to know that each one of those turns you can choose between the 2 types of capital ships, the armada ship or the attack cruiser.
Yeah.
You are not locked in. We like to provide both teams the flexibility to change based off the changing circumstances in the game.
Yeah.
So after that, the team with initiative begins making their moves with their capital ships. No, they don't. Because first, we resolve patron effects.
Yes, that's right. So team with initiative begins resolving their Patreon effects first, whether it was local uprising like we've been talking about in this video, or it's just simply adding resources. We just kind of go in order with that regard.
Yeah, and it is one team resolving all of their patron missions, and then the other team.
So, for instance, where this might matter with initiative is that when both sides have a Patreon player who is able to secure an unoccupied Outer Rim planet, if they both want the same planet, then the one with initiative is going to be the one able to snag that.
And that can be really problematic if there's only one planet available. But it also allows you to do combos, and really the only combo that we have right now is one we talked about before, and that is incite the locals to start that uprising, and maybe your opponent chooses to evacuate a remote planet like we did with Dantooine.
Yeah.
If you also have in your back pocket the strategic reconnaissance to occupy a remote system, you can do that as a 1-2 punch. So all of the patron missions for your side are resolved, and then the other side is resolved. Now, it's worth noting you probably don't have patrons in your local play group, but you can have these tactical mission objectives that we've included in the rules and find a way to incorporate those either with people who are infrequent players, or maybe they play a whole lot of games, so maybe you want to allocate a certain number of games to each side for those. But whatever it is that you decide to do, they're going to be resolved.
Sure. Or as we've seen it, the campaign rounds are taking about 2 or 3 weeks just to, when you get to the middle of it and you have so many games to play, it's just difficult to fit it all into 1 week, where some players are getting 2-3 games, and maybe some players are only getting 1. Maybe those players can be accomplishing their own versions of the Patreon missions in their local play group. And so their games are contributing to the campaign, just not on as grand of a scale. But still involved.
They do add a lot of flavor to the campaign, of course, too. Yeah. When somebody bounty hunts Palpatine, it is just fun.
I almost wish I could just do some Patreon missions.
I know, they're really cool. Yeah. But no. All right, after the patron missions or the tactical mission objectives are all resolved for each side, then we go to our capital ships.
Yes. And so when it is the ship phase, again, initiative player goes first. But then you're able to declare any of your movements or attacks on the board. You're even able to declare your armada attacks. So sometimes players that have more armada ships will try to get those out of the way in order to stall and see what their opponent is doing.
Because these do alternate. So the rebels will take a turn, then the Empire, then the rebels. So that is a whole nother level of strategy because
Yeah.
there's certain capital ships, like we talked about last time, which allow you to occupy unoccupied planets.
Yes.
Maybe you want to take those planets early before your opponent can take them.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to take them at the very end of your round so your opponent doesn't have any attack cruisers left to attack you in that newly occupied
to obtain
planet.
them. Yeah.
Maybe you stall with those Armada fleets. Maybe you can't stall. It's very complex, I will say. Surprisingly complex.
Yeah, definitely. But it is a lot of fun every week to get everyone together. Every other week, I should say, when we accomplish our rounds. To get everyone together and everyone's trying to discuss what they want to do. And this person's got this idea and you're all discussing this idea. And it becomes like everyone, I don't know how to explain it. Just everyone's like throwing their ideas out.
Yeah, it's a collaborative planning session where eventually, your team has to come to an agreement and make a move.
Definitely, yeah.
And then, if you're a patron, by the way, you have access to the actual video footage of us going through and making those moves.
Yeah.
It can be loud and hectic, but it's also a lot of fun. So consider joining us on Patreon, where you can support us with those tactical mission objectives, but also join in and at least be able to watch what we're doing in the campaign phase. You guys get the clean version here of the map board. Okay, so after all the capital ships are done, it's the last thing to do. That is declare commanders and any unique characters that are going into these attacks.
Yes, and this one we actually do on a timer. We don't accomplish it the same night that we make our moves because there's just so much discussion. I mean, like, we got to talk about what these lists are bringing with these commanders and trying to figure out, what your resources are. Try to figure out which players like to play which characters and try not to give your fellow teammates the ones that they hate. Try to figure out where your priorities are at. Try to put the characters you think will perform very well in the meta right now on those places.
The prioritization is really important, like which planets you have to win the most and which planets you can afford to lose. The matchups between players is really important.
Yeah.
We have a father-son team that are playing on opposite sides. How thematic is that? And we don't like to match them up, so that is one of the considerations.
Yeah, can't avoid it every time, though.
So far we have, but there's no rule that says they can't play each other, but we do try to prevent that.
Yeah.
And, that's a really fun part of it, and that goes back to when you want to make your attacks during the capital ship phase, because those attacks are declared in order on the board.
Yeah.
So if an Armada ship happens first, then that is the first one that gets resolved as far as who is playing that game with which admirals.
Yes. Just to circle back real quick to that assigning commanders phase, or I should say picking unique characters that are going into each of these battles. We do that through Discord. That is not something that we do live with each other. And really, it's kind of a back and forth going in the same order that we took our planets and declared our attacks, where one side will declare who's defending an attack, and then they'll declare what they're doing with their attack, and then just back and forth until you're out of things to declare. And usually we give about 24 hours for that first declaration, and then try to get the whole thing resolved in 3 days. There's not really a timer we've put on that just yet, other than one side starting to, vocally whine a lot when it's taken too long, as we've both been known to do.
We haven't needed a timer yet because we normally do our campaign map phase on a Friday, and then we have games the next Friday. So by Sunday or Monday, normally we have the prioritization down, and we know who's playing which commander.
Yeah.
So it goes pretty quickly. It's been good.
Yeah.
I think that's going to do it for our campaign corner as we go to the map after this commercial break.
He once played a game of Legion at the Metropolitan Museum of Art as a special exhibit. His snipers still have infinite range. He has heavy cover, even when standing in the open. He is the most interesting man in Legion.
I don't always watch YouTube, but when I do, I prefer the playbook. Roll well, my friends.
Welcome back to Map Talk, where we talk about where we're at on the campaign map during turn 3. But before we do that, we kind of have to clean up what happened in turn 2. It was fairly easy, Chris.
So these two went like this.
Yes. So at the beginning of turn 3, what we have is the Imperial still controlling the center here with Coruscant. That's going to give them an extra Armada ship. We control this sector down here, along with Solus, Tatooine, Seleucami, Ilum, and Dantooine, where the rebels control.
The rebels. I'm sorry. Rephrase one more time. So you're talking about the ones that you just took.
Yeah. So that the end of turn 2, the start of turn 3. This is what the map looks like.
Yes.
Yeah. So the rebels control.
Rebels control this whole region with Toydaria, Bothawui, Nalhutta, Kessel. We still got 3 of the planets in our home system: Felucia, Yavin, and Mon Calamari. And then we have controlling this frontier with Mandalore and Kashyyyk. We have taken Dagobah last time as an outer planet. And then we've also taken Geonosis to get some land speeder units.
Okay, it's worth noting that since you no longer control the entirety of your home region, you lost an Armada ship. So the first thing you had to choose was, what kind of ship are you going to get for this region right here?
Well, we have chosen an Armada ship.
All right. For our region down here, we have chosen an Imperial Star Destroyer, or what we call an attack cruiser for the campaign. So we're all set there. And since the Rebels have one less planet than the Imperials, it was going to be the Rebels' turn first to make their move.
So we wanted to go as fast as we can into the planet that we saw being the best place to strike. So we flew right into Ord Mantell.
Okay.
Right up here.
Go ahead and grab one of your Rebel tokens to go ahead and mark that. But you know what we did before that, Chris, is we resolved our patron missions.
We sure did. So we got to incite the locals first.
Yeah.
And so we put it on the Imperials to take one of their planets and relinquish control. So the people of Dantooine have spoken.
Let's go ahead and grab your U-Wing to represent your patron.
Yep.
Flying into Dantooine and inciting the locals with some psychological warfare.
Great propaganda.
Turning our own people against us. On the Imperial side, we were successful, as we mentioned in the very beginning of our broadcast, with a patron rescuing Emperor Palpatine himself, returning him to Coruscant, and then we were also successful here in the Imperial Center, resupplying our armies across the galaxy. And now, Ord Mantell has been taken by the Rebels. What the Imperials did is they responded by saying they were going to make an attack with an Armada ship.
Yes, and we declared that with our one Armada ship, we are also going to be making an attack.
So in round 3, each side will have one Armada attack. That's going to be pretty exciting. After that, we could not let the people of Dantooine get away with kicking off the Imperial garrison. So we sent our capital ship, which cannot be blocked, because you guys do have a block at this point, of any capital ship, not the Imperial Superstar Destroyer. And we retook Dantooine. Now, this is an important planet because the 1.4 laser cannons are produced here for the Rebellion.
Yes.
So we retook it with our capital ship. That could not be blocked.
It's a bit humorous. It's as if the locals decided to rise up until that giant ship came out of hyperspace. And then they all said, never mind.
At which point they said, Lamb Chop made us do it.
Yeah, right?
And we chased him off the planet.
The U-Wing suddenly vanished around that point.
All right. So after that, Chris, that is when you went into Seleucami.
Yes. Definitely. In an attempt to overcome my defeat, I had chosen to move one of our commanders to take back the planet of Seleucami.
A very good move indeed. Now I will tell you, the Imperial High Command completely overlooked where Ord Mantell was. And unlike this system over here, this region, which is blocked by that big red line, this one feeds directly into Coruscant. And so we immediately responded. We could come from 3 planets here, so it's going to be tough for the Rebels to block us with their one. By moving an Imperial Star Destroyer in from Coruscant to try to take back Ord Mantell this round.
Yes.
We could not let that stand.
Yes, yes. Well, in an effort to try to attack from multiple fronts here, we had actually taken one of our ships. I believe it was our flagship here. And we went straight from the newly taken Kashyyyk into Cato Nemoidia.
The Mordians. Yeah.
Yes. Just to try to get another foot near the Imperial home of Coruscant.
All right. Kashyyyk is a very important planet for you. We recognize that. So what we decided to do is we took a ship from Alderaan into Kashyyyk. Right now, you have Wookiee warriors available to you in this turn ×3. We have lost the access to the Occupier tank, which has been a superstar for the Imperial list so far, as you saw in our last battle report.
Yeah, definitely. So to conclude our final battle, we actually decided to kind of make a war on multiple fronts, and we went in from Dagobah into Mustafar to try to kind of make our way back towards the planets of Hoth and Endor that have some of our favorite units.
If you're successful over here, it will also break up the regional control that we have and deny us one of our capital ships.
Yes.
Well, we had a couple of ships left at this point. What we decided to do was move one into Felucia.
Okay. Well, because of our Armada victory last round in our attack, our Rebel Armada was able to meet this Star Destroyer in the sky, or in space, as I should say, and have blocked them from being able to attack Felucia to cancel out this attack.
This is doubly good because it prevents us from another launching point into Mon Calamari, and the shields are about to go down on both of our home systems at the start of turn 5. But also, Felucia is where you guys train your Rebel commanders.
Exactly. Got to have them snipers.
Thankfully, we still had one ship left, and once again, the Empire will try to take Toydaria. It has been a struggle. We have not been successful yet, but eventually we will be, I assure you.
I think at the end of this campaign, in Kashyyyk and Toydaria, there will be nothing left but ash and dust.
Let us hope so. Let us hope so. All right, so that's going to be it for campaign turn 3. I think the map looks pretty good right now. There are some exciting battles to be sure, and we will see how those results turn out on our next broadcast. So thanks. So now you're up to speed on where we're at on the galactic map. We're going to throw it to our Outer Rim correspondent, Ron Armstrong. Ron, what do you got for us this week?
Imperial forces are on the run. Princess Leia and Sabine Wren have encountered General Veer's Imperial army. Intel has led the Imperial force back to the Wookiee home planet of Kashyyyk. Both sides were trying to incite the rebels to join their side. A vicious battle ensued. Be sure to head to the War Corgi YouTube network. And to see the battle report captured by the Imperial probe droids, head on over to the Cocky Rooster on YouTube.
That's going to do it for us this week. Now, if you enjoyed the commercial that we played during this episode, remember, if you are a Legion supporter, you do content creation, or you make things for Star Wars Legion, you also can submit a video commercial, and that we will include in these broadcasts. So thanks again to the guys over at Team Relentless and Ben. Fantastic video, and we look forward to more. So I think that's going to complete us for round 3, right?
I think so, yeah.
Some exciting battles lined up. We look forward to coming back to you and letting you know how those ended up. So we'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye.